Hello there, and welcome to Thank the Maker, a podcast about heroes, princesses, scoundrels, hokey religions, ancient weapons, and all things Star Wars. I'm Adam Russell.
Hi, guys. I am Teak. I'm Ryan Key.
Hey, everyone, it's Nick.
Neek.
Also known as Nick. Nick.
Everyone is Wrecker.
Rika.
It's not very good. Hey, it's Mike. You know what I like is when the Star Wars hose,
Star Wars?
the Star Wars hose just opens up and it's just 3,000 gallons a minute because we have not only 3 new episodes of Star Wars today, but also I feel like a ton of news came out today as well.
Yeah.
I'm like, trickle it, lay it out. What?
I didn't hear any
leaky
news. Oh, leaky news.
Well,
And we need to double down on that Mike was referring to a water hose right now. I was like,
Yeah.
where do you
I see
where are you
what
going with this?
What is happening here on our podcast?
Ryan,
This
you
is a
haven't
family
got it.
podcast.
I got
you
it.
haven't you've been a dad for maybe not long enough to eventually forget that some words have undertones that you completely
Coffee.
forget about. You know what I mean?
I'm only 10 weeks in.
Yeah. But you're doing great.
A lot to
bud.
learn.
You
Got
are
a lot to
doing
learn.
great.
Thanks, man.
But yeah, there's I think what's rad about it is we got a little leaky news about another show that could be coming out. Maybe we'll talk about that
you
after.
text that. Okay.
I did. But then also for fans of vintage gaming, they are combining the original Battlefront 1 and 2 into a super game that's re-releasing on Nintendo Switch and PlayStation, which is fantastic because those
Glad
were
it's coming to PlayStation because I don't have a Switch.
Well, Xbox and PC, I saw all of it.
Oh, it's coming to all of them? Okay.
Yeah.
I followed it from a PlayStation thing. So that's super fun. And I'm like, that's great. I love everything about that. And then we got 3 new episodes of Star Wars today.
That we did. We've got a lot to talk about because
Jump right in.
What
we're
a
back
show.
into
What a show.
Yeah, we're back into series coverage, and we got, like Mike said, 3 episodes, the premiere of the Bad Batch season 3, the final season. Dudes, I'm getting a Bad Batch tattoo. I'm just so invested in this.
But what are you going to get?
Oh, the logo. The 99 skull logo, of course.
Sure.
Duh.
Yep.
Yeah. It's already got
I
my
get
face
that.
in the logo. I might as well get it,
That's true. Adam the
That's right. That's
Adam
me.
the Bad Bad.
So, obviously you guys loved it. We were just glowing, and just beams of light were shooting out of us in our text conversation, the limited conversation that we had. But we're all equally stoked, I would say, right?
Just pooping rainbows over here.
Wow. Mm.
All right, Mike, to your point, there's a lot of poop in my life. So just
And I get that. I really do. Absolutely. I work with college kids, so just as much poop.
So almost a feature-length story in 3 episodes, sort of 3 acts broken into 3 episodes. Really somber, foreboding kind of tone. We got a little adventure in the second episode, but still it maintained that tone, and it was super heavy. Nick, what did you think overall?
Life is just better when there's new Star Wars.
Agreed.
It just feels like a piece is missing when there's no new Star Wars. So I'm back to being a whole person right now. I loved it. I'm just in an overall marveling at this very to use your word, brooding, dark, animated show that we're getting. I don't know how the metrics are, who's watching this show, if it's successful or not, but the fact that they're making a very adult friendly animated series, I hope it's doing well, because that to me means that animation could go in any direction as far as Star Wars goes. It's almost like what Andor did to live action. Hopefully these more serious Bad Batch episodes that are way more serious, I think, than any Rebels episode or Clone Wars episode. Maybe not serious, but darker for sure. Hopefully that just means that hopefully it's going well and we get more of that style of animation. So I'm pumped.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Mike?
I remember thinking, so I watched them at about 5 a.m, just so that, and I knew this was going to be 3 episodes. I knew it was about an hour and a half worth of watch time. So I woke up at about 5:15 in the morning and watched them to avoid spoilers, because I knew that it was going to be rampant. But the first episode was a lot slower than I expected, because usually there's kind of the classic, you think about it from the Mandalorian perspective, they've generally been pretty high action. There's something to kind of remind you what's going on. And this episode it just put you right back into this Imperial prison on Mount Tantus. And you were like, dang, it is grim. Like, Nala Se seems like she's literally dying every time she walks in and sees Omega. Crosshair seems like he's just blatantly lost the will to live. Omega is trying so hard to believe that the rest of the batch is coming. I remember watching it it's probably about 5:40 when it ended, and I was like, I don't know if I feel better about anything right now. Like, this just feels sad. And then we got, and then it started to pick up, and I think it turned into kind of classic, some classic Star Wars animation. But all in all, like, if you're well, first of all, if you're one of those people on the internet who just likes to, Ryan, you and I, obviously, a lot of poop in our life. If you're one of those people who likes to go and say, like, oh yeah, Disney's gonna retcon the sequels, I love this. I love this for you. But most importantly, I think we're seeing there were some big reveals we'll talk about, and
you love it because Disney is retconning the sequels.
I'm loving it because for all the people that for some reason think that like the true fans want to get rid of the sequels, Bad Batch was straight up like, oh no, we're actually going to connect this right.
We're going to double down on it.
What's a better word than retcon? Like, retcon would be changing something that happened already. This is filling in the blanks. Like, what's a better term for that? Yeah. Like,
yeah.
Rise of Skywalker was just like, here's a bunch of blank space, and like this is where they're now filling in. So
dude, believe it or not, in like maybe the course of just 1 year, that I've lightened up a little bit on engaging with these idiots in comments.
I'm glad that you've done that for yourself.
It's good for the brain and the emotions. I've looked at some recently, and I've noticed tons of people, like actually the majority now, saying the kind of things that I was saying, and just getting, I was just getting pummeled before. Now it seems to be swaying. I think like in this past year or two, like kids are just getting a little bit older. They're engaging and they're defending the thing that they love, and it's amazing.
We did it. Our work here is done. This is the last episode of Thank the Maker. We're
finale
done.
Tonight.
Roll the music. Speaking of music, Ryan, how about that score?
I mean, so there's a theme that they wrote for Tantus. Like when they go back to it every time they go back inside that place, and it is so sick. And I've used this reference a billion times, but it's like it's giving Star Wars this like Blade Runner seriousness, this weight through the music. And there was not a single moment in all three of these episodes. You either had this somber, gut-wrenching themes playing, or you had full-blown John Williams-esque action, multi-layered orchestral horns and woodwinds and strings. Just like for, the second episode was pretty heavy on that for the escape from the vines and all that. But to your point, Nick, I think that this show, I also don't know what the metrics are, but I want to think they're really good, because this is being made with Clone Wars fans in mind, grown up. Like Clone Wars debuts in 2008, and you're 8 years old. I mean, like you're coming into adulthood and you're watching this now. It's just it's carrying on that story for I think a lot of fans that found Clone Wars to be a huge part of their life because it was a cartoon and they were young. So I think that is part of why it works, and I hope that I'm right about.
I think there's something to that. Definitely. Like, just think about Ahsoka being popular. That's a Clone Wars like character. So hopefully the Ahsoka, Clone Wars, Rebels fan base is watching all of this, which to me would equal that it's successful.
Yeah, and it's going to be, that's going to help immensely going forward for the Filoni feature film, which is, I keep thinking with all these things like Ahsoka and this show being such an essential part of the story. Now we're finding out these dice rolls that they're taking to double down on these like offshoot shows that are just not. I mean, granted, Palps was in this episode, and we'll get into that. I mean, just holy Lord, but,
was he in it?
And so there's that sort of, OT nostalgia, but that hasn't really been in the Bad Batch until this moment. And yes, this was a huge Easter egg for us all. It was a huge, I don't know if that's the right term, but this was a huge
Easter basket.
Yeah. This was like such an amazing thing that they did for us to bring Palpatine in. And but my point is that aside from that, they really are doubling down on these stories that are new and characters that are new. And you think like to your point, Nick, is anyone watching this? But they have to be, or they wouldn't be spending all this money and making them and scoring them with full 80-piece orchestras like you heard in the second. That shit ain't cheap, dude. I absolutely loved it, man. I thought it was so fun, and I think our collective theory about no Monster of the Week, no Adventure of the Week episode confirmed episode 2. That kind of scratched that itch for maybe a younger fan that wants to see. Before we started recording, I mentioned no, they did, because someone was saying how it's not a cartoon, it's like grown-up cartoon. I was like, remember, they did put a monster with red eyeballs in to keep it consistent with being animation. And so I think they did scratch that itch there, but it proved the point that adventure was fully tied into the main storyline, and I don't think we're going to step away from it even an inch for their whole season.
Right. Yeah, agreed. The thing that struck me most, aside from everything else you guys have been saying and how it just jumped right back in, and the quality bar was high, and they went straight up to it right out of the gate.
Oh, the animation looked it's incredible.
Incredible.
The lighting, dude.
Yeah.
There was
visually stunning
lighting.
There was a scene where what's the older clone with the red glasses? What's her name?
Emery.
Where Emery was standing in the doorway of Omega's room cell, and it just, there was a close shot of Omega with her in the back, and I was
depth, and
I was just like stunned by the hair, Omega's hair, the lighting on her hair. It was like it blew me away. And I mean, who am I? A cartoon hair gets me stoked. Like, what is going on?
Ryan Key, cartoon hair enthusiast, and dude, like,
so good, man.
The talking about like the fidelity of it, the textures are just a little bit better. The lighting's just a little bit leveled up, that digital cinematography that I forgot the name of the digital DP who's a real DP that they used all through Clone Wars. He was talking about lighting a scene. It's just another level up. I don't know if it's the same guy, but it's amazing. And like talking about fidelity, dust particles in the air. Did you see that a couple times?
Yep, for sure.
A cartoon, it's like incredible. But in terms of like the directorial angle, the cinematography, the composition of the shots, it was so deliberate and stylized, like so many choices to tell the story with a visual language that it wasn't just stuff that people were noticing later about the circular nature of things, the ticking clock of the blood sample machine.
Right.
That starts
was on my list to bring up. What an amazing way to move the story forward.
So
that
smart,
was,
dude.
What a choice.
And it happens much earlier, actually. Just the overhead shot of the lab, it's circular. You've got the clock there. The water dripping from the faucet, it comes back every time. And even there's a shot the last time that Emery comes in to get her, you hear it drip, even though you don't see it.
Right.
Like it is her. It's the metronome of her slow, just repetitive life.
Right.
And then you've got, once everything kicks into gear, the blood sample machine actually rotating with her sample. It's counting down. It's like building suspense with it. Right. And then you've got the counting the days with the ticks on the wall. So they're communicating all of this stuff visually, and they don't have to. Yes, you can see, it's sort of exposition in a way to see the number of days, but it's all so subtle in the way that when her hair changes, it's grown out. It's just a little ponytail in the back.
Yeah, it's longer. And
yeah, it's so smart. And
let's talk about the hair some more.
Yeah, who else had good hair in this one?
Yeah, like dang, like let's get this going. And also, like,
Hauser coming back.
Their armor, like how
you
were talking about fidelity, like like Wrecker and Hunter, like their armor looks so weathered and grungy and dirty. Like they've literally been just doing missions, looking
Passage
for
of
information to
time.
get back
Yep.
to find out. You know what I mean? It's just like I'm ready to start the petition to remaster Star Wars Rebels in this style. Like I'm like, where do we need to sign?
I will watch that if you pull that off.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
The detail I noticed too, I thought, and maybe this is not that much different from previous animated stuff. I don't know, but I did notice it. The detail that went into the interface, like the UI of the tablets.
Sure. Yeah.
All the different things they were swiping and pushing, to get into the doors and to run the tests and to do. It was like, I mean, there's so many little things happening that somebody is creating and drawing, animating. It's crazy.
We've moved.
Going back to the
women's razors. Sorry.
Bring them back though.
Yeah, sure.
Going back to the lighting thing, where I noticed the lighting a lot too was the episode 2 when they're fighting what appears to be a Sarlacc Dianoga, like
Dren gear.
It was so dark in there that the use of lighting made a lot of parts of that scene look like stop motion to me. Like the lighting made it look so real because it was like dark, but the artificial CGI lighting was like really kicking ass in that whole scene.
There was a shot too where you see a few troopers kind of in the foreground, and then I think it's that creature in the background, or maybe it's ships landing. But the depth of field is such that they're a lot more out of focus than they should be. So it's almost like it makes it look like a miniature.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's all digital, obviously, but did they make choices like that on purpose to make it like to evoke the feelings of those old school miniatures and stop motion things and comping shit together like that?
Ooh,
get
Kate Sabaker on the phone. Let's ask this.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into Stolen Plans, and there's a bunch because there's 3 obviously, and we had some fun cameos and some voices, so let's do it.
What have you done with those plans?
The Bad Batch Season 3 episode debut. Debuted today, February 1st, 2024 on Disney+. Credits are a little different on this. Some roles have kind of evolved. Developed by Dave Filoni and Jennifer Corbett. That's the first one to hit now. Supervising director on this whole thing, Brad Rao, same as last season. I'll do this episode by episode. And I'll start with the Disney Plus description, actually. I feel like this makes more sense. Disney Plus description for Confined, Episode 1. Imprisoned on Tantus, Omega adjusts to a new life. 32-minute runtime. Directed by Saul Ruiz, Star Wars animation veteran. We've seen him a bunch of times. Written by Jennifer Corbett. Story editor, Matt Michnovitz. Same as last season in a lot of cases. Starring everyone reprising their roles. D. Bradley Baker, also as Batcher, the Hound. He was doing those sounds apparently.
Of course.
Why not?
Did you guys pick up on Batcher right away? Like it was Batcher. Like
pretty early. Not like the first time, but yeah.
I thought it was Badger for a second, and then when I realized that, I was like, "Oh, I'm really stupid."
I was waiting for the like corniest like Bad Batcher. I was like waiting for her to. Yeah.
There's a cool thing related to the episode title. If you noticed, a line from Omega, when Emery, right? You just told me that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When she comes into the kennels, and is like, "Don't leave. We can sort this out." She says, "I was confined on Camino for too long." Like she uses the episode, title in that line of dialogue. I thought that was really cool.
It truly was a Shawshank Redemption.
Ryan, you also know that D. Bradley Baker does the voice of Nubs, right?
No, I did not.
Yeah.
Know that.
So as Ryan is going through with his child and enjoying young Jedi adventures,
I am. We're enjoying it. He just stares at it, but he really stares at it.
Sure. But like Nubs is done by D. Bradley Baker. So like there truly is no character
skills, man.
That guy cannot voice. It's incredible.
I want to hang out with that guy. All right, episode 2, Paths Unknown, Disney Plus description. Following a lead, Hunter and Wrecker make a startling discovery. 26-minute runtime. This one directed by Nate Villanueva, formerly credited as Nathaniel Villanueva, right? Not Nathan, Nathaniel, right?
Sounds right.
That gets confusing on IMDb. Good luck to you, Nate. Written by Matt Michnovitz, story editor Matt Michnovitz, starring a handful. Liam O'Brien as the Deveronian captain and one of the Pikes, or the Pike that gets brought in.
Mm-hmm.
He's done lots of Bad Batch voices, also Young Jedi Adventures, Jedi Survivor, lots of animation and video games, Call of Duty, Last of Us. He's got a pretty long IMDb of that kind of stuff. Julian Dennison as Deke and Stack, the kids. This is the kid who played Fire Fist in Deadpool, the little kind of big kid.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Oh, that's funny. That's awesome.
He was in Godzilla vs. Kong, Hunt for the Wilder People. Angelica Houston as Issa Duran.
Dude, I knew it immediately. As soon as she
Same.
started talking, I was like,
Right.
what?
Yeah, you're like,
Pretty sick.
okay, let's go.
We were stepping it up, Star Wars.
She also, I don't know if we knew this and forgot it, or if you guys remember, also played the Sith mother in Visions in my favorite episode.
Ooh.
What do you call it?
Screecher's Reach.
Yep. And Daniel Logan as Mox. Daniel Logan, of course, is young Boba Fett, for anyone who doesn't know.
He's back. He's back.
Episode 3, Shadows of Tantus. Omega and Crosshair hatch a daring plan. 26-minute runtime, directed by Stuart Lee, another Star Wars animation veteran, written and edited by Matt Michnovitz there as well. And starring, or featuring, I guess, Ian McDermott as Emperor Palpatine. Welcome back. We love you. This one's funny to me. Ben Diskin. This dude does the voices of 2 stormtroopers. He also does the voice of AZ, from season 1 and 2.
Right.
He's done a bunch of voices in Rebels and the Clone Wars. But the funniest and best IMDb credit he has that made me go, what? He was one of the kids in the class in Kindergarten Cop.
Yes.
One of the
One of the boys have.
one of those kids.
Yeah, boys have.
That's so good.
Yeah. Girls have, yep.
Yeah, that's great.
David Acord as one of the stormtroopers. He has been in the sound department, sound designer on a bunch of Star Wars stuff. The Rise of Skywalker, Ahsoka, Andor, Book of Boba Fett, and also Loki, Fallen Order, Guardians, Licorice Pizza, pretty sick. Did some Clone Wars stuff. He's been around a lot. And David W. Collins, who's done a ton of Star Wars stuff as well, is also in the sound department. He did another Stormtrooper. The score on this is credited finally to not only Kevin Kiner, but his kids, his adult kids, Sean and Deanna Kiner.
Very cool.
All 3 names. Great to see.
I had a thought earlier and I didn't get a chance to say it. So he's doing such an excellent job kind of with John Williams style scoring.
Mm-hmm.
But he also brings this, like Ryan, what you're saying, this like Blade Runner-esque, like synthy, whatever. So he could encompass both of those things. Do you think John Williams could do the same? Do you think if John Williams needed to like do a synthy Blade Runner thing, he'd be able to do it?
I don't.
Yeah, I don't think so either, right?
I don't think that I don't think, well, of course he could do it. I mean, give the guy an instrument, he's going to play it. But I don't think it would have the same, I don't think it would have the same, authentic feeling, maybe is the right word, that's coming from Kiner, where he is not 97 years old or whatever, and he is actually influenced by the Blade Runner score and those old 80s synth heavy scores, I'm sure. So I think, I don't know, he just has more of a, and his kids too. I mean, they're hip to what's happening right now in music, and electronic music is everything these days. So yeah, he could do it. Would it give you that where you go, wow, this feels like a sick Blade Runner crossover?
Yeah.
I don't know. Because John Williams music, like even when you think about a really stripped down piece in Star Wars, right? Like the Binary Sunset Force theme, whatever we're going to call it.
Palpatine's theme.
It's like that's playing in the film, and if you listen to it on a record away from, so you can really pay attention to it, there's still, even when it's down to like the most simple melody, just bum 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 ba-da-dum, there's so much stuff going on just quietly underneath it. Like he's writing symphonic classical music, and the trick to this Blade Runner stuff is just that piano going boom boom boom, and like that there's an art to that, to it being so simple, but the sound design, the choices he's making for the reverbs he's using and the synthesizers he's using, that's what makes it sound so cool and unique. And I think John Williams is a timpani and flute guy, and Kiner's got his head around using a Juno and a bunch of guitar pedals,
Yeah,
he's crushing though. Like I know he's gonna wind up doing the Ahsoka movie here. He obviously did the Ahsoka show. It's like there's no one. There's no one better for Star Wars. I think at this point is Kiner. Like he's done so much, and for him to do John
second.
Williams, close second. What?
I was gonna say Michael. How do you say his last name? Giacchino. How do you Ganacchio? How do you?
Oh, he did Andor, right? Yeah. Also excellent.
That's the score.
Yeah.
I mean,
Not
Ludwig
Williams-esque
Commando,
though,
too,
right?
But I think, Nick, your point is Kiner's like the scope of his work.
Yeah.
Like
It's
how long he's been involved with the franchise and how much music he's made for them. Like the Göransson score for the Mandalorian's awesome, but that's it. It's the recorder loop, and he scores for Christopher Nolan now because he figured out how to play a recorder and made that cool melody that no one can unhear. I'm kidding. He obviously is way more talented than that. I'm just saying that Kevin Kiner, he's been around for so long, and he's made so much music. I think there's something to be said for like he's stepping into a role here that belongs to the GOAT right now. And
he's also great at writing hooks, which is tough.
Yeah, I agree. Like that's what I'm saying about those simple little melodies.
Yeah.
Especially in that synth wave kind of style of scoring. It has to be. I mean, I recognize that Tantus theme. It didn't come back for a while after you heard it the first time, but it was so noticeable. I was like, oh, this is the song that's going to play when we're here. I recognize it immediately. It wasn't just like, ooh, dark synths. I knew it was that theme.
Like I can't remember who scored Rogue One, which is great. But the theme at the top.
Giacchino,
oh, it was him too.
Yep.
Oh, okay, so the theme at the top.
I was going to bring that up because it's challenging, right, on our show to speak of things that you have criticism of, right? But I was going to bring that up, that like Rogue One would be something that tried to sort of do Star Wars as a score, and but to be fair, you have no idea how much of that was why it didn't necessarily land. I think we've talked about how it didn't land as well as some other music has, and some of his other music has landed and been amazing. So it's like you have no idea how much of that's the composer and how much of that is the director and the producer and Disney and everyone going, we only want this one stem, this one string part playing. Once you hand over the music, that's it. You don't get to say, no, I want the whole piece in the movie.
The correction is Nicholas Britell did Andor.
Oh,
yeah,
Michael,
that's what I was thinking.
That's right.
Yeah. Michael did Rogue One, and I believe he did Solo. We got to look this up before we say this, right?
Also, not a great theme. It's good, but it's not. I mean,
well, John Williams did the Solo theme.
The Solo
and then
theme,
someone else scored the rest.
Yeah. Okay.
Interesting.
But he also did the Battlefront stuff, which is...
They can't all be hits, Adam.
We all have
as well. Everybody's got deep cuts.
Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting. All right.
The future of Star Wars music is bright. That's the point of this conversation. There's a lot of talent.
It's Kiner. So.
Yeah.
Got it.
Hey. Last thing about the scores. Put my boy Alan Silvestri on something. Get him off the Avengers stuff. Get him off the Marvel stuff. Give him something. He wrote damn Back to the Future. Come on.
Yeah.
Like the dude.
He's a really talented composer, bro.
Yeah.
And the Avengers score is like the Avengers fanfare, the theme, like, dude.
I mean, that's the understatement of the day. The talented composer. The guy's a legend.
Yeah.
He rips. All right, let's get into a discussion. We got a bunch of stuff, and we are already at a half hour. So very, very fast overview. We're not going to do like we've done in the past. We're going to keep this more like Ahsoka. We're just going to kind of discuss things. But quick episode overview. Episode 1 was pretty much Omega and Crosshair imprisoned, living in Mount Tantus. Omega working with Nala Se and the clone, her clone sister, Emery, Dr. Emery Carr, right? Working on this cloning project, we now know. Episode 2, Hunter and Wrecker doing jobs, searching for Omega, getting out of a bucket of syrup. Episode 3.
Ain't no way! No one knows that reference but us. No one.
It's a great reference. Episode 3, Palpatine visits Mount Tantus, Omega and Crosshair escape. Those are the important parts.
Yep.
So let's talk about the time jump, because this was one.
Okay. The only thing that are important is Omega and Crosshair escape. Nothing about the blood. I get that. We'll talk about that.
We're gonna get into that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. The time jump. This is on a couple of bingo cards, and it's worth talking about because we need to establish where we are. So, Mike, you said before, Hunter and Wrecker's armor's beat as hell.
Yep.
Omega's got longer hair. She's got a little ponytail. Omega, you see, talking about passage of time, how they display this. You see, Omega first seeing Crosshair in the hallway. She looks surprised, like, oh, there he is. Oh my God, it's Crosshair. Time goes by a little bit. She doesn't even look up at him anymore. It's obvious a bunch of time has passed. We also see the hatch marks or the tally marks in her cell that she's counting with. The first time we see that, 31 rotations, we're assuming, 31 days, right? Next time we see it, after the ponytail and everything, 150.
You counted.
So that's 5 months. The last time we see it, 164. So 2 weeks later, 165 days, 5.5 months.
Okay.
164 days, sorry. So
bingo.
Somebody mentioned maybe Medi Gunner, maybe Physics Buddy Joe in the patron chat. You could safely assume we're probably in 17 BBY maybe by now. Not that it matters that much, but if we're trying to figure out where we are,
sure,
we can say for sure 5.5 months passed from last season. So, all right, let's talk about the big stuff that really matters. Project Necromancer. Second mention of this ever. Commandos everywhere. Highest level of security. This is what's going on in Mount Tantus. Hemlock refers to it as Project Necromancer when Palpatine shows up. We first heard these words in Mando Season 3, Chapter 23, the second to last episode. And it is ultimately about the Empire testing subjects' blood to find and reproduce a genetic M count. I think we all know what M count is. Class?
Midichlorians.
What? We were, well, just like, how are we getting into that now?
I'll say a few things and then let's discuss. They specify that the specimens are not clone troopers. Palpatine is actually, Hemlock takes Palpatine to see some, like vertical tanks.
Snoke. It's Snoke. Snoke's in there.
Something like that is happening. We're assuming. Palpatine says, this is from the trailer, there's nothing of greater importance to secure the future of this empire. Whatever is needed to accomplish this goal, you will have it. And then later, as he's leaving, it is imperative that this facility remain hidden and secure. There are many, even within our ranks, even within our own ranks, who would consider much of your work an abomination. Sounds familiar.
I thought of something when he talked about Tantus remaining hidden, and someone in chat that's smarter than me or has a better memory than me could correct me if I'm wrong, but I wanted to bring up also a shout out to Timothy Zahn and just how pumped he must be that this huge part of his original entry into Star Wars storytelling is being used as such a centerpiece for this massive puzzle piece that we're now learning and filling in the blanks with. But I'm almost positive they had some sort of cloaking device in Heir to the Empire in that trilogy of books that kept the mountain hidden from everyone. Nice. Obviously, they're not using that here, but it made me think of it when he like that. Maybe that was another little kind of just fun nod to the origins of Mount Tantus and what it was, because he said you have to keep this place hidden,
Wakanda style.
And I'm pretty sure, yes, it was very similar to that idea. I think that was in the book, if I remember right.
So as far as I'm concerned, and I assume we're on the same page, this is as much confirmation as we need that what we suspected previously, that Project Necromancer is fully Palpatine's plan to clone himself, still going on 30 years later in The Mandalorian. This all leads to the sequels. Like, it's all but confirmed.
Yes.
Right? Until they say, yes, this is exactly it. I mean, this is it.
Yeah.
Good job, Disney. Disney did a good job. Here goes my social media.
So
I've got questions about the M count.
should we talk about that in the context of the question about Omega, or
Yeah, I think so, because replicating a genetic M count, right? That's what she says.
well, here, you want the quote? Let's do this.
Yeah.
It is, where is it? The Empire seeks the reproduction of a genetic M count, but the experiments on specimens have yet to yield the desired results.
Mm-hmm.
And then later, she says to Hemlock, the Emperor should be pleased that we accomplished a successful transfer. So you're seeing the blood dripping into the samples from the others. And Hemlock says, not when the M count is highly degraded.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, oh, what does she say back?
Well, so the question is, does that mean any old Joe off the street might have the blood they're looking for, or are these suspected force sensitive people that they're doing these tests on? That's the question, right? Because
Right.
a genetic M count, like, I don't know, does that mean they already have it and they have to be able to, it's like, think like blood types. Like if you're, O positive, you can only accept whatever, I don't know the science behind that off the top of my head, but you can't just take anyone's blood for a blood transfusion. So can anyone's midichlorians just mix, And it's like, or is it that? Is it just, they're literally just testing on poor unfortunate souls until the blood drips in there and goes ding, ding, we've got a receptor, It
seems like they're only testing on
say.
clones too, right? As far as we know.
On screen, they are clones, but then they specifically say that they're not clones.
Well, or did they
Which
say
is
they're not clone troopers?
Oh, okay.
I mean,
Right?
because
So, yeah.
if
Nala Se is there, they could be growing. They could be growing clones from the original source code, DNA source code, from Django's code
Makes
to like
sense.
just
Well-
grow new clones and try.
if we remember too, that the Bad Batch themselves, Omega says, I saw all of you when you were born, right? They knew they were testing for genetic mutations, right? That's all the Bad Batch have a mutation. They're undesirable mutations, or they're specified mutations, right? That's what their powers are. They knew that Omega was special in the regard that we all thought that maybe she was like the super juice of them all. She had, because if you're all the way back in the season 1, like Crosshair's like, you're a really good shot. And she's like, I don't know, I just felt it.
Right.
We said on this podcast that she might be force sensitive. And to have Omega, that her mutation could have been that she's force sensitive, or at least force acceptance.
It has to be.
That's what Palpatine has been waiting for, is that mutation that they can, I'm assuming, a mutation that can basically then take Omega sample and now create bodies just like we've seen in Snoke in the tubes, that you could have clones of Palpatine so that he can essentially live forever, right? So that's what I took from this whole thing, is that
what I just, dude, my brain is melting right now, because we talk about how much of Star Wars is taken from Frank Herbert and Dune.
Sure.
And now, I didn't know about it. God, why can't I say his name now? Guy who wrote Foundation.
Isaac Asimov.
Asimov.
That, yes. Like until I started
Tom
watching
Clancy?
John
Aldous
Christensen.
Huxley.
I didn't know, I wasn't hip to that until I started watching the show, and obviously did some research and found out that, okay, well, if Star Wars is taking a lot of themes from Dune, well, Dune is completely taking all of its themes from Foundation. This is wild, and I wonder how much thought went into this based on those novels because the whole entire through line of that story is that the Empire, they call the Emperor, is just Empire. That's what you call him in the story. You address him as Empire. And there's a dusk, dawn, and
Day.
And day. Day is the ruling empire, and the other two are young and learning and then on their way out. But they're always being grown, and there's always backups in the tubes. So if one of them dies, they're uploading their consciousness and memories neural link style, and they can wake up and pick up where the last one left off right away. Over time in the story, they genetically mutate, and it starts getting weird. So I'm like, that concept of cloning, like keep multiple bodies in multiple tanks for Palpatine. Like once he discovers the one clone that has the mutation he's looking for, he can just print, make pints of that shit and just make body after body, let the bodies hit the floor. But yeah, the question of, is it just accepting the blood, or does the blood itself have to? Is it sort of like a human blood transfusion in that? If Omega is force sensitive, which I don't care how on the nose it is, I want it to be so. I want it to be true. I want a moment at the end of this show where she reaches out and stops something from falling on the guys, or something happens where it's just like all your hair stands up because she uses the force, right? Yeah. I want that. It might not happen, but I want it. But either way, is it a blood transfusion, or is it like just the blood of one of the clones has to be able to hold on to Palpatine's blood? And I'll shut up. The last thing we were going to say is, are we agreeing that the blood dripping into the vials is like Palpatine's blood?
I think so.
That's
where I'm going.
I'm assume.
Yep.
So I, from what I could tell without really filling in any blanks here, I think that's Palpatine's blood dropping into other hosts' blood or other people's clone blood, whatever. And they were saying at one point earlier in an earlier episode, some of the midichlorians didn't degrade. So that was like a plus for, I think Emery said that, and Hemlock was like, not if it degrades, it's not a plus. But they got one finally where it didn't degrade as much. And I think what is happening is Palpatine's blood dropped into Omega's and it didn't degrade.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm getting. Right. So
doesn't this also go into first season of Mandalorian? The reason that they know that Grogu has the Force.
Yes.
They know that he's right. And so you've got the fact that they're withdrawing blood from Grogu and using him for whatever.
They use M count too in Mandalorian.
It's kind of cool.
Definitely heard that there.
Right.
It's kind of cool that you almost know that, I don't want to say happy ending, but you kind of know that they, because we already know how this ends, that they don't get Omega. This doesn't work because it still takes another 30 years for him to create a somewhat successful clone of himself, and even that clone is not fully functioning at that point. So it's like whatever happens here, it's not Omega. They don't. Right now, it's like, yes, that's the one. That vial is the one. We need her because that's going to work and create a perfect, full-bodied, full force sensitive clone. Right. But we know that they don't get her because it doesn't. Yeah. There's not a clone.
What if Omega last episode, Plan 99? Omega just
brutal.
Yeah,
dude.
That's why I said I'm not going to say happy ending, because that is not going to happen. We're not going to get that.
My hope is that Omega survives, even if everyone else dies. Omega survives, and we get a straight up Omega series.
Yeah,
oh my.
Maybe it's years down the road.
Oh my.
All right, so let's. Huh?
He's just trying to get in that writer's room, Mike. You know this.
Yeah.
I know. I do. You're doing great, Adam.
So to simplify, two possibilities. One, she has a high midichlorian count, which we're all hoping for. Or two, she's just a good host for Palpatine, right? And it's just going to work out. And it has something to do with her being an unaltered clone, and because of that, she's a better host. But if this is true, and her being an unaltered clone of Jango, strong DNA, whatever, because he was like the perfect soldier, right, that they picked.
Right.
What does that mean for Boba Fett? What does that mean for this whole idea of force sensitivity? Does this just lend support and credence to our idea that high midichlorian counts are more common in Star Wars, and that many highly skilled people in Star Wars, including Han Solo and any great pilot or warrior or anything, has a higher midichlorian count and has force sensitivity, whether or not they train and hone it like the Jedi or Sith do?
I think that is in there no matter what. That concept is very alive and well. But I do want to go back to something Mike said that I thought was really, really cool and I think interesting to think about and likely. I hadn't thought about the idea. Well, first of all, Adam, I missed in the show because I only got to watch it once that they weren't clone troopers, as if that was said out loud. But I certainly didn't think about what Mike just brought up. That he is, and I like this theory, Mike, that you brought up. He's just making clones. They're not soldiers. He's just making clones from that source code DNA to get one to mutate and be force sensitive. Yeah, I think that's what's going on. I think the force sensitive is important for the sort of the blending of the blood. You know, we're doing witchcraft on Think the Maker, a Wiccan podcast. Yes. The mingling of the bloods.
A cauldron.
But I like the idea that that's what they're looking for, which could not be the thing, but how cool is that to tie into this show and what the core of this show is? Like you said, Mike, the clones, Clone Force 99 themselves are mutated clones, and I think it really sticks to like the themes of the show in that they're looking to recreate that, like because each one of them has a different mutation. So like, how many of these do we have to make before we get one that's just born with it?
Right.
Yeah. And Omega. I want to believe they already have one. She was born with it.
Does Hunter really have great hearing and super eyesight, or does he just have some force sensitivity and that's how he perceives it? You know,
could be. I mean, it's like, and then the question is going into what do they do with that to transfer it, and could you put that into another human or something? Like, there's something about Hemlock that deeply unsettles me. The dude is on a mission.
Speaking of great hair.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the guy like
he's got that Brad Pitt Fury hair going. Right, it's really strong.
But the way that he talks.
Whispers the entire time.
Right. And there's something about him that like the dude kind of looks like Snoke under all that like, I don't know, man. Like there's something about like he's gonna do something crazy and like inject himself.
Is he going full Doc Ock or the dude in
I like that.
Iron Man?
Yeah,
you know, I just thought of a cool moment.
Extremis, yeah.
Just thought of a cool moment that I'm remembering as Palpatine is leaving, and Hemlock says, "If I'm made the director of the Science Corps, whatever the Imperial Science Division, whatever." Remember when Krennic comes into Vader and is like, "So I can be the lead. It's mine."
To him for me.
And he just chokes him nearly to death and is like, "You don't talk to me that way." Palpatine turns around and goes, "Just be patient," and gets on the ship. He's like, he's so calculated. He's already got a plan for everything.
Who's in that role now? Are we assuming that's Tarkin? Or are we assuming, you know what I mean? Like, is that,
I don't know.
Who is in that role now?
I think Tarkin is in more of a military role.
I think so too. I'm with you on that, Ryan, because like it was interesting that he asked for such a specific position. It wasn't like,
and it didn't make Palpatine mad,
right?
That he was like being over ambitious or not being offered the job.
Right.
He was just like, just be patient. I have a plan. It just shows you how the difference in Palpatine and Anakin. Like Anakin's fly by the seat of his pants, no plan, just choke everyone else.
Anakin's like, I'm
burn it down.
Try spinning.
Yes.
Yo, what was the name of the one named character in the Mando episode with the Shadow Council?
Your Thrawn's Pelion?
There's Pelion, there's Hux.
What's Pelion's
Brendel Hux?
Yeah, what's Pelion's title? Like, is there another character out there that we know that could have this role that he's looking for? Or it's not like, that's not Galen or so.
Maybe
like
what if it winds up being Gideon and we get Gideon in Bad Batch?
Yeah.
Dude.
It's on my bingo card.
Yeah, I love that. One thing too, Mike, you were just saying like that Hemlock kind of, going down the road of like, what if he's Snoke? Someone somewhere on the internet was brought up the fact that Snoke was like larger than humans, like he was like 8 feet tall or something.
Right.
And that someone brought up the fact that like maybe there's some Nalise, there's some Kaminoan something in there. So
he's a clone. He's a clone, right?
Yeah.
Dude, Dude.
Here we go.
I totally forgot about this. I put it in the notes and I skipped over it until you said bigger. What is where is it? The Hemlock says oh come on. Hemlock says something about the I gotta do a Command F and find the sorry people who are watching.
I like this idea. I like where this is going. The other Claire in the YouTube chat also said, is Hemlock's hand a glove or a prosthetic?
Yeah,
Which
they're focusing on that a lot.
Man, like he's got either he already injected himself or he's been working on himself or something, like, or there's some story there. And then that goes back to the idea of like in the tanks, you know, that they have all the Jedi remains, like they are up to
I got it. I got your quote. You find it?
Oh, yeah.
Did you find it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dude, Chekhov's gun. The dude's got a glove on his hand for a reason.
100%.
Hemlock says to Palpatine, the exotic matter facilities have expanded, providing alteration and testing of much larger assets.
Mm-hmm.
I had this down as a Zillow Beast reference. Maybe Mike giving you a point.
Sure.
That's a stretch, but perfectly reasonable. But larger assets. Snoke is actually a specific species. That's mentioned somewhere. I forgot what it is. So, like, we've had thoughts about it, but I think that's all squashed because I think I'm almost positive he's like a specific race.
Okay.
I
species.
think
and they're much larger. Is that a Snoke reference?
I think they're
Could be.
I think they're gonna have a hard time with this one. I'm just gonna say, like, I hope that they land the plane, but the Snoke thing is, I think, gonna be because everything right now with, you know, I was that point that Mike made that I just brought up that really makes sense in my brain. Like, it's clean. They're growing clones and they're trying to find the right one. Where does that fit in? And again, I hope they land the plane well, but I think he was just a big bad in the movie, and now they gotta figure out, okay, well, why does he look different than all the rest of the clones, and how did Palpatine get cloned into that body?
Yeah,
I mean,
Mike, you finding something?
According to Wikipedia, Snoke is a Force-sensitive humanoid genetic strandcast male.
I know that much.
There we go.
Mm-hmm.
There we go, Nick. But I think, you know, the thing that we can always remember too in Rise of Skywalker, and especially in the way that Palpatine says it, you know, that I created Snoke, right? Like, we already know where Snoke came from. He was created in that sense of it. And we saw the many copies of him on Exegol. So what we need to figure, what I'm sure that they're explaining to, is that we're all the pieces are being put in place of exactly how they're planning on transferring that the brain, cognitive abilities, whatever it is, to reanimate a body or transfer something from a body to be like, was Snoke part of Palpatine's consciousness? Like, all of these things that we're asking about, of how Palpatine was able to stay alive. We know this giant machine that's keeping him alive, which, like, something much larger could also be this machine that's keeping Palpatine alive. That's
they were
the final order, right?
They were referring to those vines when that conversation was happening.
Which could make sense.
I think, you know, so because Palpatine was like, don't worry about that. In reference to the other facility, he was like, that's not what's important,
right?
You know,
sure.
But that, I don't know, man. The tank or the cylinder or whatever that opened and, you know, cast that light out on Palpatine, we didn't see inside of it. It was pretty big, if I remember right. It's a pretty big container.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, dude, that scene, the lighting in that scene with the red, like, Mortis style shit on the floor, and the light, light under his hood, and man,
yeah.
Yo,
so
on that, on the tentacles and the stuff out in the forest or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Did anyone else come to the conclusion at the end that those were all those tentacles were just stretched out from that one main creature, and that they weren't separate things?
I think so.
Aside
yeah,
from the little
probably
bug things.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if we're gonna get into that, but like that, there's a couple of things. Some people are saying, like, one of the TKs was 343, which some people are referring to this kind of like organism that can break off and turn into little things is I don't know if you guys played Halo, but there was a whole scene, but it was called the Flood, and it was basically this like zombie-ish kind of style that Master Chief has to go blast through. It's actually quite terrifying. But one of the studio was Studio 343 that Bungie ended up turning into. I think that was their partnership. So that might have been a little throw to the Halo guys, and I don't know if because some writers are involved, maybe
nerds are gonna nerd, dude. I mean,
for sure.
It's the
343 is just a particular. It's
I love it.
It's odd, right? But
I hope it's that.
But from the High Republic, there is
where my brain went. The
same
Drengir.
The Drengir. So the Drengir is this like they go on to they find this old space station, and the book kind of reads like a horror movie. It's actually super cool, and they find that there's like these plants everywhere, and then they come to find that the plant is actually one giant organism that's basically this like kind of force-eating entity that can replicate very quickly, and they have mouths, and they kind of can turn into a giant thing, but they're plant-based, they're organic, and that was the first thing that I thought of. They had names. I can't remember the exact name that they called it. Vines, whatever the vines or they had a name for it, but I don't know if that's just what the clones called it because it seemed to make sense. That would have been pretty sweet. That's a High Republic thing that I thought was pretty rad.
It made it sound like that was made, like a man made by the Empire, though. Sure. So I think it got squashed.
When the little like 3-leg, the little creepy ones that jumped at looked like a face eater from Aliens, or face hugger. They had the little like circular, dune worm sarlacc mouth in the middle of them, so they were like baby versions of this giant. So maybe there is more than one of them, Adam, to your point, but
sure,
because I think those were little tiny versions of the giant one. If you remember, it had a mouth when it jumped at them. Yes. And they were talking about like how long it would take the vines to reach certain locations and stuff. I thought of it. This is where my brain went towards, is like some kind of like defense, like if the Empire made it, right? Is that right? That it's some sort of like keep people out kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, or it's just out there in the woods and they're like, oops, hope it doesn't get any closer to the mountain. All right. Couple things to talk about before we get into bingo card results. The mystery trooper, Clone X, the assassin trooper, did a little bit more homework. We've seen this face before. It was, remember in season 2, the one that had the exchange with Rex. He said, you're fighting the wrong battle. Mm-hmm. You're limited. And Rex says, so what does that make you? And he says, a believer. And then he bites the suicide pill.
Yeah. Same
helmet. He's guarding the cells. So that's a class of assassins, like special, super dedicated. I don't know, who knows what. But yeah, not as mysterious as we thought. We had forgotten.
So
Crosshair, let's talk about this. This is just like some character interpretation stuff. Crosshair says he deserves to be there in prison when he's talking to Omega. Mm-hmm. In terms of like his path, obviously like he escaped with Omega, and we're going to see what happens in the coming weeks. Does he feel like he deserves to be there in prison because of what he did to his brothers, or for failing as a soldier and betraying the Empire?
You remember early in the show when we were like, oh, it's going to be that kind of party.
Yeah.
When he just lifted his rifle up and killed someone like point blank.
Right.
I think that's why he thinks he should be in prison, because he did a lot of stuff like that.
I hope so.
Right. I think it's maybe a bit of that. He feels like he's betrayed the Bad Batch, betrayed the Empire, betrayed the fact that, he basically allowed for his brothers and the clones, not just the Clone Force 99, but the clones as a concept, as a class of soldier, as living, breathing people, for him to let the Empire come in. And he also is like fully aware that he let them walk right in, right? And for him to sit in their prison and go, I asked for this because I didn't fight them.
Yeah.
And just kind of have that, like that dwell that, and then he knows he's being used for whatever he's going to be used for, which, I think in regards to his hand tremor, which is quite bad if you're, say, a marksman. I think that's the first sign of the early aging. Which did we officially have we fleshed that out, that Clone Force 99 has mutations? Yes, but are they still subject to some of that degradation over time?
Like the faster aging. I don't know if we
Okay.
ever locked that down or not.
But
Anyone
it
in
would
the
seem
chat?
to me like,
Yeah, that
I
makes
don't know.
sense.
Right.
It makes
That's
sense.
the beginning of them coming down.
44. My hands are shaky. It's rapid aging, and it's part of it.
Yeah.
It didn't. He wasn't shaken when he went through and just like housed that entire group of. There was like this one scene where he just like straight up like strangles and just flips one of the clone commandos.
Yeah.
And I just wanted him to look over and be like, "Commando, my ass."
Right. So many commandos, by the way. It was so sick.
Yeah.
Great. Best use, I think, that they could have given to them. You know, it's like you could see bringing it back, like, oh, here's a fun fan service pull, but no, like Omega's like, why are there so many troopers? Oh, there's a special guest. Of course, it's going to be all those badass dudes.
And the Royal Guard, the Imperial Royal Guard, being the exact OT Imperial Royal Guard,
and
not the
being the first thing
Centurion.
you see when the walkway comes down, when the ship opens. You know, it's just,
in that moment, I actually
that's
thought
when I texted you guys. I'm smiling like a little kid or whatever I said. Like, it was just, this is too good.
I actually thought we were going to get Vader in that moment too. Like, I thought we were going to get Palpatine and Vader kind of coming down, with Vader being like the extra enforcer that everyone was like, but I'm glad they didn't, because I think I truly do think Vader's coming, but
I don't think
just
he would
seeing
tell
those.
Vader.
No, I agree. Because and that's kind of the point. An interesting part of it that we can just briefly talk about, because we got to skip over it, but like the rule of two doesn't say it can't be two of the same person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean that. Like,
loophole.
Right? Yeah. So if Palpatine's like, there will always be two Palpatines at some point, and I remove the idea that all of my apprentices, for the most part, have kind of failed, I know for sure I can count on myself. So, I don't know.
Well, I'm excited to see how this all plays out. Let's talk about bingo card results.
Oh boy.
So, for anyone who listened last week, you know what we're talking about. Anyone who didn't, we made bingo cards with our predictions, or, some predictions, some just hopes.
At the time of this recording, am I still in the lead of the poll?
We polled. Let's look at that. On Instagram, we posted the cards, and we asked everyone to vote on who they thought would be most likely to win. And the results are, with only 19 responses. Thanks a lot, Internet. 37% voting for Ryan's card. That's the winner. Mike's second. I'm third. Mike's second with 32.
Last.
I'm third with 26, and Nick is dead last with 5%.
You'll see.
So the thing is I'm gonna win this poll. So give me that, because when we do shit like this, I literally never win.
You always lose.
I always lose. So
loser.
If I could just win the poll, I'll take it.
You won that poll. Yeah.
I'll take it.
All right. So let's talk about what hits we did have. I think the Zillavies thing is a stretch. I think it's possible, now that was mentioned, the larger facilities or whatever.
What's on your card? It says reference or mention?
Mention on Mike's.
Yeah. So, okay. Oh, look, I have balloons.
Yay!
Yeah, I feel like
it needs
I'm
to say
all for
Zillavies.
giving it, because, maybe there's something on the fence for me down the road, and I want you guys to be like, oh, okay, sure. But I feel like the word mention is like, it's a mention.
Yeah.
Gotta say it.
Let's give it some time. And if we want to be generous at the end, we can do that. Time jump. Nick, you and Mike both had that on there, and it's just time jump, plain and simple. I had time jump finale at the ending.
Okay.
So points for you two for the time jump, for sure. And
wasn't expecting it in like the first episode. That was weird.
no.
Same.
Also, we have a lot of, unless they go back into the cell, there are a lot of absolutely nots on these, talking about Mandalorians helping the escape, different ways to escape in different, scenarios that are just will not come to fruition because they've already escaped. First episode, or, third episode. Do we have any other hits for us?
See, I didn't get one hit. I mean, we're already off to the beginning of me winning the poll, losing the, winning the battle, losing the war.
Yeah.
I like that.
Somebody actually put together some numbers here in the patron chat. Graw Rock B says, as it stands, Adam got 0, Mike got 0, but disagree, you got 1. Nick got 1, so Mike and Nick each got 1. Ryan technically may have gotten -2. Mandalorian's assisting in the prison break, and Palpatine on the Destroyer, but there's still time for Palpatine to be on the Destroyer. Patreon gets 1. The patrons have their own card. Gonky, the hero, is what the square says.
Wow. Good
I
call.
like it. I like it. Yeah, I like it.
Gonky was
I'm with
crucial in episode 2.
Adam and I deliberated on Omega's true identity. That was something that we deliberated on. And
yes,
I was saying that I thought Omega being force sensitive is her true identity. And
so Patreon, they had, quote, Omega's true identity revealed as one of their predictions.
Mm-hmm.
Continue.
Yeah, but then him and I had kind of talked like, is it that Omega is it like that she has some kind of lineage, that her original DNA sample was not just Jango Fett, it was actually someone else, like what does that mean? Or does she also have a secret that's beyond just watching the Bad Batch be born, right? So like, I think that's what you were kind of in the camp of, and me being like, the purpose of Omega is that she's force sensitive. That's the reveal, right? So I mean, the patrons can fight amongst themselves,
so
lobby for themselves.
I went and asked them, and I asked them to deliberate and get down to what their actual intent was originally. And Physics Buddy Joe went back and found the original conversation, and it turns out they were looking for more of like a who is it? Who is she kind of reveal than a what is her deal kind of reveal.
Okay.
So they want to switch it to the exact same thing that Nick has, which is
she's actually part Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
She's part Sifo Dyas.
Nick's specifically says
Omega Skywalker.
Omega special skill reveal.
Jin.
So we're going to switch that for them to Omega special skill revealed. Okay. And in that case, I feel like it's enough. You and the patrons get a hit on this.
I agree. With that.
I'm not going to disagree, but we could also wait.
Okay.
Because if she winds up having a non-force Bad Batch mutation, that's when I would give it a tick.
Okay.
A tick?
Tick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I'm cool
a tick,
with that.
Not a tick.
Tick.
Not a tick.
Ding,
but a
ding,
tick.
ding, dick, ding, ding. Yeah.
All right. Should we do I Love You, I Know on this? We want to do that? We'll keep up that tradition?
Do it quick.
Or you just want to wrap it up?
Yeah. Just a quick. Yeah.
All right, here we go.
I love you.
I know.
I'll go clockwise in my view. Mike. Mike said no. He's farting. He's sneezing. Ryan, go.
We're going like all three. One thing from all 3 episodes. Like not one from each. Like
right. Yeah.
One
favorite
thing
quote. One
out
favorite
of
scene,
the 3.
Whatever. Yeah.
The music in episode 1.
Sick.
I mean, like Palpatine, duh. But I'm trying to think of something more unique. Music's so good. I want the soundtrack on my phone already.
Agreed. It's sick. Nick, what's your favorite moment?
Mine
quote,
was
anything?
just a funny little moment when Omega was getting into the lift and the mouse droid was coming in and she just kicked it out.
Kicked it out. Yeah,
That
so
was
good.
That was great. Mike, how about you?
Like, I think an overall thought from this is that, to the point of what we brought up at the top of the discussion, was that we have such a wide fandom now that has grown up through many, many years of animated Star Wars, knowing that animated Star Wars is just as important as live action Star Wars. And as all of these things are getting announced and these new shows are coming out and these movies, all of that is great. And I know that's the general population, but seeing the effort that went into the cinematography, the storytelling, the character design, the depth of the maturity of the truly like dark side of this story makes me super appreciative of all of the team that works on the Bad Batch. And I hope that the reception of how awesome this show is carries on and transfers, so that, like you said, if it's an Omega show or whatever the next story of, is it actually an animated Luke Skywalker and Han Solo adventures or whatever that is, I just hope that we get more of this, because if this is the future of being able to tell stories outside of actual cast actors, I'm here for it, because the show continues to keep looking good, better and better. And I can't wait to see more stories in this universe. So I would say that's my overall impression of these first 3 episodes for sure.
It would be smart, because think about the turnaround time. Was it a year? Under a year? Like, Bad Batch season 2 was on when Mando was on. So that was last year. So they're nowhere near doing Mando season, they're not filming Mando yet. Right. They just turned around a full season. So it's like that they have to lean into this more.
Yep.
So Mike, you do or don't have a favorite part? Because you just told us you like the show a lot.
Well, okay, fine. No, I mean, anytime we see OT references in animation, I truly think one of the coolest. Like, I feel like even the Macquarie TKs are starting to look a little more stormtroopery. And I think seeing the Royal Guards to me was the reminder that we are headed so fast into the OT. That was probably the moment that I was like, yes, this is great. This is awesome.
Yes, I'm on board.
Yep.
Yes, I like Star Wars.
I do it.
My favorite moment, it's a sequence. Say it's like a 5-minute sequence. The first Omega sequence, starting in her cell, the dripping of the water, going all the way into the lab where she's working with Emery and Nala Se, to the end of that. It's it's 2 locations, 5 minutes probably. That's my favorite. The tone of it, the composition of the shots, all the stuff I talked about at the top. It felt like a movie, and it set the tone in such a profound way. There was no mistaking what this show's going to be after that sequence, and it had me like absolutely sitting up, edge of my seat. So that's it for me. Patrons, I should have asked you what your favorite was at the top of this segment, but I blew it, and I'm sorry. And we have to get this thing done because I got to get it out because it's late. All right, next week, it's going to be Mike and Nick and whoever you get on to hang out with you, because Ryan and I will be on a giant boat in the middle of the ocean with no internet access.
Right.
You
Okay.
got this.
You do it. We've done it before. We've actually done it. This is same old
Easy
thing.
peasy.
Easy.
Lemon squeezy.
Right.
All right. I love the show. I love Star Wars. I love you guys. Patrons, I love you as well.
We know.
If you want to be a patron, patreon.com/thankthemakerpod. Also, we have big things coming in just a matter of weeks. It seems like we'll announce it as soon as we can. But for now, it's all Bad Batch every week. This is the place. I'm going to be doing some fun stuff on social media. like I did with Ahsoka and some things, counting trailer footage, stuff like that. So Instagram, I was about to say Instagram.com. Don't go to Instagram.com. Open your Instagram app and follow us. Follow us in the sense that you press the follow button, and also in the sense that you pay attention. Please and thank you. And until next week, may the force be with you.